Another episode of the Jay's Fifth Down Football Podcast. I am your host, Jaden, and today we're going to be talking about the Miami Dolphins and why they're in a very tough situation. This is a team that had a great regular season, but just lost in the playoffs in the wild card round to the Chiefs. So we'll talk about that and all the things there with Tua and the coaching, all that stuff. We'll talk about it. But before we get into that, make sure you guys check us out here on YouTube. Subscribe to the channel. Follow us here on IG, Twitter, TikTok, all those social media platforms. We're there. You can also find us on audio. If you listen to your podcast on audio, we're on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, wherever you get your favorite podcast. That's where we are. Jay's with Down. So make sure you check us out. Like I said, so let's get started. The Miami Dolphins. It's a team went 11-6 this year, first in the AFC East. They went to the playoffs last year, but they lost, to the Bills. I mean, Tua was hurt. Skylar Thompson was starting quarterback, and so it's like year two with Mike McDaniel, Tyreek Hill. It's like, okay, you know what? Like this year is going to be a good like this. This they felt like this was their year to do something. And they had, I mean, talented players on both sides of the ball. Uh, you know, uh, like guys like Andrew Van Ginkel and Jalen Phillips was emerging to be one of the better pass rushers in the league. Very underrated player. I think he's a very talented football player defensively. Bradley Chubb. I mean, and those guys, all those guys got hurt. They all got injured. That's so unfortunate. The Dolphins dealt with a lot of injuries this year, so like people do have to remember that consensus. Like before we start this video, like yeah, Miami dealt with a lot of injuries. Now, of course, there's no excuse. It's like, you know, you're NFL, you're a professional team, you should be able to win regardless, right? You have to find a way. It's always like find a way. You have to find a way. Uh, and it's tough to do that when your star players are hurt. Luckily for them, Tua Tagovailoa stayed healthy for the year for the most part. I mean, and offensively, they were one of the better teams in the league. Like I said, they averaged 29.2 points per game. Uh, Scored 496 total points this year as a team. So tops in the league. Like very high up there in the league. And unfortunately, they just couldn't get it done when it mattered the most. So it's like looking at this team, how do you evaluate them? Now, granted, it's hard to win in the AFC. And this was a good year, though, to do it because the Chiefs weren't as formidable as they normally are. They're dealing with a lot of issues with the drops and inconsistent play at the receiving position. Offensively, Patrick Mahomes hasn't looked like himself through 14 interceptions this year. Like, they just weren't looking like how they usually look. So it's like to all the other AFC teams, it's like, hey, you know what? This is a chance for us. This is a chance for us to take advantage, and get into the playoffs and see if we can build some momentum. And for the Dolphins, they were able to do that. Now, the unfortunate thing for them is that most of their wins came against teams that had less than 500 records. Y'all know the story. Teams that were not very good. I mean, they start off the year. Um, you know, they start the year good. Then, but again, their wins were against teams like the Panthers, the Giants, all teams that ended up with top draft picks in this upcoming year's draft, right? Those low bottom feeder teams. So the question that remained around Dolphins camp was, can this team beat any contenders? Can they beat really good teams? Can they beat NFL teams? For example, the Buffalo Bills, they lost to them. I believe it was twice this year. And so that's a contending team. Now, granted, the Bills were not as good as they normally were either. They had their issues, but still, the Dolphins proved that they did beat Dallas week 16, but it was barely. So it's like they struggled against those better opponents. And that was the question. Like, you have what distinguishes you from a great team to an average team in the NFL. That margin is how you beat the top opponents. If you can beat the top opponents. Can you beat those top teams? Can you beat those contending teams? Those higher seeds. Those. Can you beat your Chiefs, your Bills, your Ravens, your Browns? Can you beat these teams, these opponents? And the Dolphins were not able to do that. So they just couldn't do it. Now, contributing factors to that it could be a number of things. Tua Tagovailoa, I will say this: he had a great season this year. 29 touchdowns, 14 interceptions this season, 4,624 passing yards. And in a few games here and there that could have even boosted those numbers had he played a little bit better. But he was in talks for the MVP for a couple weeks earlier in the season. Then it kind of dwindled to Lamar Jackson and Brock Purdy when they started going off, right? So, but Tua had a good season statistically. The problem was, it's just like they couldn't, you know, against those bigger opponents, those teams with those the tougher defenses and things like that. They just weren't able to get it done. They weren't able to go out there and get the wins. And granted, you saw that in the wild card game against the Chiefs. Like the play calling, I will say this wasn't all that good. I mean, they're running screens and the same like outside run play over and over again. I'm like confused. I'm like, what are they doing? It's like the Chiefs defense, and they're already good. You knew that going into the game. So my question to Mike McDaniel and the coaching staff is, why are you continuing to run this same play and these same variations over and over and over again? Like I didn't know it was cold, and it was like one of the coldest games there. In the playoffs, everything like that of the season. It was like what less than it was double digits. Low double digits was the temperature, but like run the football. Run the football. You got Raheem Mostert, Devon Achane, who is like one of the top rookies this year. He's a rookie of the year candidate. Definitely an offensive rookie of the year candidate too. So you got these guys on your roster. Obviously Tyreek Hill, Jalen Waddle, get him the football. Why is Jalen Waddle not getting the football? It's different questions that I have for the Dolphins right now, and it's funny because I watched them on their Hard Knocks, this year, and they're an interesting team to follow. It's like they got a great coach. Mike McDaniel is he brings energy. He's ecstatic. The guys, they rally around him. He's a younger coach, so he does kind of relate to his players a little bit more than an older coach might, right? And that's usually how it goes. When you play a sport like football, any sport, but particularly football, you have a younger coach who's like, he's understanding of his players. He wants to, everybody's on a synchronous level as far as what the main understanding is of the team, what the goals are. It's like, hey, you know what? We're going to work to achieve these goals. I'm going to do, what I have to do as a coach, and you guys help me as well get better, and I'm helping you get better also. And that's that equal. It's not a power disparity, like a lot of coaches in the NFL, and football in general, it's like oh, I'm the coach, you're the player, you have to do this, we ought to say what I say, you got to do this and that, this is how I want, this is how I run my team, this is how I run my program, all that type of stuff. It's like, yeah, that might get you wins, but the morale of the team is not going to be good because everybody's just not on that same page, as far as they don't respect you as a coach that way. They might fear you, but they don't respect you, and there's a difference, but you want to be respected, not really feared, because if your players fear you and you're a coach, like it's just not gonna the team is not gonna serve well, as you go throughout the season, because it's like that overall vibe and energy of the squad is just not gonna be good. As a player, you want to be on a team with a coach that is willing to he's willing to pitch in. He's willing. I mean, not pitch, but he's willing to get better himself too. As the season goes along, not just trying to coach you guys to get better, to coach the players to get better, but him and his staff improving, learning after each game. What can we do better? What can I do better as a coach? How can I lead these guys better? How can I, implement better things into this scheme, into this system, into this franchise? Mike McDaniel is definitely that type of guy, which is why he's one of my favorite young coaches in the league. But unfortunately, against the Chiefs, they just could not. Him and his offensive staff couldn't get a good game plan together. And I don't really know what they were doing out there, but it wasn't good. So moving off of that note, the question for Miami, now you go into the offseason, everybody's talking about, should they get rid of Tua? Should they keep Tua? Should they get rid of him? My thing is this: Tua Tagovailoa, everybody's he's not the furthest deep thrower in the league. Maybe he can't do certain things, but he's a very accurate quarterback. He's one of the better quarterbacks in the league. Like I said, he had one of the top quarterback statistical seasons this year. Like I said, 29 touchdowns, 14 picks. I mean, so he's a great player, and he had a very healthy season this year. And you see what happens when he's healthy and when he plays. The Dolphins win games, whether they're against quality opponents or not. They're winning football games. So the thing about that is, I think they should keep Tua. It's one of those things. It's like, yeah, I mean, but what really else is out there? You're at a spot now. The way your roster is constructed, you're constructed to, like, you got players that you got Jalen Ramsey, older guy, is getting up there in age. He's a star player, but he's older. He's on that contract. He's trying to get him a ring. another ring. You know what I mean? And guys like Bradley Chubb and Tyreek Hill, of course. You know, all these guys. Like, yeah, you got some young players too. Raheem Mostert, one of them, but like one of the older players. But most of your better pieces, your talented pieces, are at the point in their careers where they're trying to win Super Bowls. They're trying to win rings. They're trying to etch their name into the Hall of Fame, right? You know, trying to build that case. They're trying to better their careers. They're not really trying to play this long game, this pull and tug, like this rebuilding and this and that, and or we're if you bring a rookie quarterback in, or you bring another quarterback in, like it's really gonna throw. I feel like it'll throw things off, unless it's an established quarterback in this league, which is like at this point none of them are really available. Because the team, if you look at the quarterbacks that really are your realistically options, if the Dolphins decide to move another route, getting rid of Tua Tagovailoa and bringing in another person, another quarterback, the options are there's really no options out there. If you trade for a guy, I mean, you could say Justin Fields, but he doesn't fit what I don't think he fits what Miami wants to do offensively. He's definitely going to be on the trade market, and the only teams I would expect to go after him would probably be Atlanta, um, you know, maybe Tennessee. I'm not sure. I mean, teams like that, specifically, but you know, who knows? I mean, even who knows? Maybe the Patriots. But all I know is like the Dolphins themselves are not a franchise where they want to reset the quarterback position. Like, no, you got your guy. I believe it. And Chris Greer, the GM, already said that they're going to stick with Tua. They're going to have contract talks in the offseason. So he's going to be there long term. That's what he said. You know, so that's what the plans are. Then again, things do change in the NFL very fast, very quickly. So we'll see what happens. But I think that they should keep Tua around. It's just you have all these talented players. I mean, like I said, Devon A. Chain is incredible. Tyreek Hill, we all know him. Raheem Mostert, Jalen Waddle. I mean, the offense is speed, speed, speed. It's really the way that Mike McDaniel schemes his offense and the way that these players get up, it's great, and it's winning football. But you know, so it's like you just have little things that you have to fix on, just little things. And granted, again, they had injuries this year, so it's like I can't sit here and blame all of this on Tua or Mike McDaniel because they had injuries. Like I said, Bradley Chubb was hurt. Out for the season. Jalen Phillips out for the season towards ACL. Like it's like so you have to take that into account as well. So I think the Miami Dolphins are in a very tough situation right now because they're internally they're torn on what to do. They're thinking like, yeah, we keep two around, but at the same time, it's like, um, should we just at least look at other options also? Should we at least look at what else is out there? That's the question that they have to ask themselves. And to ask themselves, do they believe Tua is a guy that will bring them a championship someday? Can he do it? Is he capable of beating top teams in the league? Is he capable of going and playing to the cold weather in January and beating top contending teams? Is he able to do that on a consistent basis? And if he can't do it, then he's not their guy. Uh, you know, so if he can, though, you know what I mean. So it's that type of deal. So that's really my thoughts on the Dolphins this year. Like I said, talented team. I think they're going to be good for years to come. They're going to be one of the better teams in the AFC and in the entire league over the next couple of years. So, and there's no question about it. As long as Mike McDaniel's running the show down there, like they're a great team and they're a fun team to watch and be around. So that's my whole opinions on them. So, but other than that, yeah, that pretty much wraps us up for the show today, guys. I just want to talk about the Dolphins and what they're how their things are shaping up, looking toward them in the 2024 season into the offseason now. Their offseason has started early. They lost in wild card round, so they have a lot of questions they have to answer, a lot of things to think about. But we'll see how things go with that. We'll see how things go. You guys make sure you stay tuned. Got more episodes coming up this week. Great content coming up here on Jay's Fifth Down. And as we continue to follow the playoffs, like I said, divisional rounds this weekend. Got the Chiefs and the Bills. You got the Texans and the Ravens. So we got a lot of good games coming up. So make sure you guys stay tuned for those. We'll keep you covered with news, predictions, especially with all the coaching openings going around. A lot of interviews happening now. So we'll keep you updated on that. Make sure you follow us on the socials. Check us out here on YouTube. Subscribe to our channel. Please, guys, subscribe to the channel. I would very much appreciate it. Let me know what you think. Comment your thoughts. And we will see you next time on Jay's Fifth Down, a football podcast.